My mother-in-law said this baby can't glad the room when quiet my husband looked confused. I just smiled, then the doctor came in holding the test results and said, actually, there's something you need to know. She looked directly at me now that the baby nodded her son me, and she repeated it that baby can't be glad you could hear the beeping from the fourth pump and a baby cry. In another room, I have Luna tighter in my arms. Kaylee have turned to me blinking like he'd just woken up inside someone else's life. I could see the confusion on his face like he was trying to make sense of something that didn't need explaining. But I just smiled, not the kind of smile that says, I'm okay. The kind that says I see exactly what's happening, and I won't play into it. Because what no one in that room knew was that I'd have already taken steps. I already knew the truth. And it wasn't what they were expecting. The doctor opened the manila folder and started to speak. But before we get there, let me take you back when Caleb and I met. We were just two broke students sharing a library table at the Diversity of Michigan. He had this nervous energy, always drumming his fingers like his thoughts moved faster than his words. I was the opposite, quiet, observant, the kind of person who waits before speaking somehow. We worked, he made me laugh. I helped him slow down, we balanced each other. After graduation, we moved to Chicago and got married in a small courthouse ceremony. My dad and my younger sister were there. Caleb's parents didn't come. His mother Vivian said it was rushed and that a proper wedding should wait until them and Rosie's could plan it their way. But we didn't wait. Love doesn't always wait. Still, her disapproval stung. She never yelled or insulted me. Her weapon was silence, cold, calculated silence, and when she did speak, it was always loaded. Are you sure this is the best you can do, Caleb? She seems emotional instability important in a marriage. Even so, we kept trying. Every holiday, every birthday. We invited her. Sometimes she came, sometimes she didn't. Kill have always said she'd come around. I wanted to believe that when we started trying for a baby, it felt like a fresh chapter. We were hopeful, maybe even naive. But then came the first miscarriage, and a second the doctors told me I had endometriosis, and getting pregnant would be difficult. Every month became a waiting game. Every negative test felt like a personal failure. Davy and sympathy was limited. Maybe it's just not meant to be, she told Caleb once. Never to me, never to my face. My dad Ronald tried to be there for me, the quiet, steady man. A retired mail carrier who raised my sister and me after our mom passed. He called me every Sunday just to check in. My sister June, in nursing school down in Texas, would send memes and random thinking of yourself, he said, 3 in the morning. I cried reading them. Just when we were about to start the adoption process, it happened. I was late. I didn't even take a test at first. I couldn't bear another disappointment. But I did. And it was positive. I showed Caleb the task while we were brushing our teeth. He looked at it, then at me, and dropped his toothbrush in the sink. We laughed and cried, toothpaste still on our faces. The pregnancy wasn't easy. Morning sickness, nerve pain, constant anxiety. Every ultrasound felt like a tightrope walk. But every time there was the heartbeat, strong, defiant, like she was saying, I'm coming, deal with it. Vivian didn't say much. No gets no congratulations, just a single phone call. Let me know when you find out the gender. That was all. I gave birth to Luna after 17 hours of labor. She came out red-faced and squirmy with a full head of black hair and the bleakest hazel eyes I'd ever seen. When they placed her in my arms, nothing else mattered, not the fear, not Vivian, just her. She looked up at me like she already knew I was her safe place to live. Tried harder than I did, he kept whispering. She's perfect, you did it, babe. The next day, our room was full, and that's when everything changed. There were flowers, balloons, nurses checking in. My dad on FaceTime, June crying from hundreds of miles away. Even Vivian showed up dressed in beige from head to toe, not a hair of place. She walked in, glanced at me briefly, then stared at Luna in my arms. And that's when I sighed, something in her eyes. A flicker of judgment. Like Luna didn't quite fit the mold she had in mind for a Monroe. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there staring. And something about that moment made the hairs on my arm stand up. I handed Luna to Caleb and leaned back. Vivian stepped closer, her arms folded, and then she said it. This baby can't be a glad. It was like a window cracked open and all the warmth was sacked from the room. No one moved. Caleb frozen at step halfway between the bassinet and the chair by my bed. A nurse raised her eyebrows and slipped down, likely trying to avoid the storm that was coming. I looked at Vivian. She was angry that would have been easier. She was calm, cold, like she was stating a fact. Caleb finally spoke, hesitant. Lung, what are you talking about? She stepped closer to him and lowered her voice. Look at her, Caleb, just look at her hazel eyes, olive skin. She doesn't look like you or me or anyone in this family. I don't know whose child this is, but she's not ours. I sat there stunned, not because she questioned Moon's appearance. I had expected some passive-aggressive comment. But this was a direct accusation in front of Caleb. In a hospital room where I was still bleeding, still recovering from the war my body had just endured to bring this child into the world. Caleb turned to me as they said what he didn't dare say aloud, is there any truth to this? That was the part that broke me. I had never cheated, never even thought about it. I had loved Caleb fully, even when his mother treated me like I didn't exist. Even when I sat through dinner after dinner ignored and belittled, I gave everything to this family, and now she was slicing it apart. I cleared my throat, my voice was steady, sharper than I expected. You're not seriously listening to this, are you? Caleb didn't answer. Levy and turned to me again. I'm still crossed. I just want to protect my son and his family. If you have nothing to hide, then you shouldn't have a problem with a paternity test. It wasn't a question, it was a challenge. I looked down at Luna. She was asleep, tiny fingers curled into the hospital blanket, unaware of the storm around her. Something shifted inside me, not rage, not fear, clarity. I looked Vivian in the eye. Fine, do the test. But when results come back, and you see how wrong you were, I hope you remember that you question your granddaughter's place in this family on the very day she was born. Caleb stepped forward like he wanted to say something, but all he managed was a Lyra. Let's not fight, please. Vivian gave a tight, satisfied smile. Good, arrange it. She turned and left the room like she hadn't just dropped a bomb in it. When she was gone, everything started moving again. The air came back, the machines beat. Caleb sat beside me silent. He looked at Luna, then at me. You know she's wrong, right? He is quietly. I nodded. I do you? He didn't answer right away, and that silence said more than any words could. I turned away, not because I didn't love him, but because right then I had to protect something more important, my daughter's truth, my truth. I couldn't afford to fall apart, not now. The next morning, a hospital social worker came by. She offered to refer to a third-party genetic lab that did same-day testing. Caleb agreed. So did I. Vivian, of course, insisted on being there when the results were delivered that night. I have Luna close and whispered in her ear, they can question whatever they want, but I know you, I know every heartbeat. I carried every check, every craving. You are mine. By morning, I was done being quiet. I hadn't slept much. Luna stirred through the night, and every time I closed my eyes, I heard Vivian's voice on repeat. This baby can't be our blood. Caleb slept in the corner chair, curled in the world's most uncomfortable hospital recliner, his hoodie pulled over his face. He looked drained, not just from the delivery, but from being caught in the middle between the woman he chose and the woman who raised him at sunrise. I, the nurse, as asked when we could discharge. I needed to go home, to breathe my own air again, to rebuild what the hospital room had taken from us. But before we left, I made the call. I didn't wait for Caleb to suggest it. I didn't wait for permission. I called the lab, scheduled the appointment. All three of us, me, Caleb, and Luna. Caleb, he hesitated. Are you sure we need this? You know the truth. I know the truth. This is just my mom stirring things up. I looked at him dead in the eyes, then let her drown in her own doubt. Luna, hear the truth from someone in a lab coat who doesn't care about last names or skin tones. He nodded. Okay, we'll do it. The lab was quiet, clinical, tucked in of land office building downtown. We sat in a small waiting room under flickering fluorescent lights. Luna slept in her carrier between us. I couldn't stop staring at her, so calm, so unaware of what we were doing. The technician came in. She looked young, maybe June's age. She explained the process. Mouth swabs, simple, painless, fast. Caleb went first, then me, then Luna. TV, and didn't come though. Course, she made it clear she'd be present when the results came in. She said she trusted the process, but wanted to see the results officially. I think she hoped for a dramatic reveal, some courtroom-style moment where she could point and say, I knew it. But what she didn't expect, what none of us expected, was what the results would actually reveal. We went home and waited. I fed Luna, changed her, held her on my chest as the sunlight moved slowly across our bedroom wall. I could feel my heartbeat sinking with hers steady. I wasn't scared. I was just tired, not of motherhood. Lot of proving myself, just tired at this moment even had to happen at all. 2 days later, the lab called. Caleb answered, then handed me the phone. His hands were shaking. They asked us to come in person. There's a secondary finding, the woman said, and we need to explain it face to face. Those words tightened something in my chest. But I agreed. Vivian insisted on coming. She showed her 15 minutes early, sunglasses on, inside. She was walking into a scandal, not a clinic. I said nothing to her. Her tailor gave her a half hug out of habit, and we walked him. The same technician greeted us, but this time she was joined by a genetic counselor that alone made my stomach drop. Specialists don't join meetings unless something's complicated. We sat in a small consultation room. The technician opened the folder and began. Yes, she said, Luna is Caleb's biological daughter. No doubt. I let out of breath. Caleb blinked and looked at his mother. Vivian didn't move, no apology, no expression at all. But then the counselor cleared her throat. However, she continued while reviewing Caleb's genetic profile. We discovered something unexpected. The room froze. According to our findings, Caleb is not biologically related to the woman he believes is his mother. Vivian flinched for the first time. She reacted. Her face paled, her voice cracked. I'm sorry. What did you say? The counselor repeated more gently this time. There's no eternal connection between you and Caleb, Mrs. Monroe. We ran the test twice. I looked at Caleb. He was still, completely still, as if his body had shut down. No blinking, no breathing, just frozen. That can't be right, Vivian whispered. I was there when he was born. I held him. I understand how shocking this is, the counselor said softly. But the data is clear. Caleb is Luna's biological father, but he shares no maternal markers with you. Vivian's face crumbled. For once, she wasn't in control. So you're saying I'm not his mother? We're saying, the counselor replied, that you didn't give birth to him, but you did raise him. Caleb finally spoke coarse. Then who did? No one could answer. The counselor explained that it's rare. Yeah, but babies do get switched at birth. A clerical mistake, a mix-up. They couldn't say how. It was too long ago. But the results were inconclusive. I looked at Vivian, and for the first time I didn't see control or judgment. I saw confusion, grief, maybe even fear. And it hit me, this wasn't just a twist in my story. It was a fracture in hers. All this time, Caleb muttered, he raised me, and I'm not even TV. Instead, don't you dare finish that sentence. I don't care what the paper says. I am your mother. I raised here. I loved you. I helped you through chicken pox, soccer injuries, heartbreaks. I gave you my life. Her voice cracked at the end. Caleb looked at her, tears in his eyes. Then why did you try to tear mine apart? Vivian said nothing. I finally spoke. Luna's yours, whether you like it or not, not because of DNA, but because she's part of your son, because she was born into this family, the one we're trying to build. Despite everything, I turned to the counselor. Are we done here? She nodded. We'll provide written copies of the results if you'd like legal or therapeutic referrals. We're done, Caleb said quietly. We left the lab with Luna asleep in my arms, untouched by any of it. Caleb didn't say a word on the way home. He just stared out the window, holding the papers in his lap. Vivian didn't ride with us. She walked to her car alone. She didn't speak. No final words, knows my comments. She just looked. DK live and whispered, I didn't know, and for the first time in years I believed her. When we got home, Caleb went into the nursery and sat beside Eunice's crab. I watched him run his finger down her tiny arm and tucker him. I sat beside him. What are you thinking? I asked. He shook his head. That I don't know who I am anymore. But I know who she is, and I know who you are, and maybe that's enough to start over. We sat there in silence. Not the kind that cuts, the kind that heals. Maybe family isn't what you're born into. Maybe it's what you choose to fight for. Life didn't magically go back to normal. If anything, it cracked wide open. But sometimes tracks let the light in. The days after were quiet. No tax from Vivian, no cars, no drama. Caleb didn't chase it. I didn't either. Whatever broke between them, maybe it was meant to. But I stopped focusing on her because I had Luna now, and every sleepy smile, every late night feeding, every to reminded me this was the truth. That genetics, not permission, not prove her, just her. And that was enough. Caleb stood in the doorway, holding two mugs of tea. She looks like you when she sleeps, he said softly. I smiled. You think so? He nodded and walked over, sitting beside me. Same forehead crease, same stubborn little chin. Then he paused, looking down at his cup. I don't know who my biological mother is. I don't even know if I want to know. But I do notice you never once made me question if I belong to you. Now once that meant more than he probably realized. We didn't talk much about Vivian after that. She reached out once, an email, 3 paragraphs, have apology, have explanation. She wrote that she was sorry for doubting Luna, his place in the family. But the DNA results said shaking her, and she needed time to process. I read it. I didn't reply because I was also processing not just what happened, but everything that led up to in the years of trying to fit into a family that measured love by similarity. The way had shrunk myself, softened my edges just to be tolerated. And the moment I stood up for Luna, for myself, the truth came out. Funny how that works. A few weeks later, I started seeing a therapist. Not because I was breaking, but because I wanted to understand why I clung to someone else as approval for so long. It was hard, but it helped. I realized Vivian wasn't the root of my pain. She was just a mirror of it. And I didn't need her reflection anymore. Caleb and I grew stronger, not overnight. They were long-term conversations, dinners filled with more silence than words, and quiet moments where the weight of it all almost cracked us. But we chose each other again and again, day by day. That's what love really is, not just the butterflies, but the rebuilding. When Luna turned 3 months old, my dad flew in to meet her. He held her in his big, calloused hands like she was the most delicate thing he'd ever touched. "She's got your eyes, kid," he said, "and your fire." Doom sent us a handmade scrapbook full of photos, notes, and affirmations. On the cover, she'd written, "Family is in blood." It's proof. I hung it on lone nursery wall. Vivian hasn't met Luna again, maybe one day, maybe not. But I don't lose sleep over it. Because now I know you don't need someone's approval to feel whole. You don't need their permission to love, to parent, to protect. You just need truth, right, and the courage to stand firm even when the ground shifts under you. That's what Luna gave me, the mom. And she arrived, she gave me a reason to stop shrinking. I look at her now, one hand always curled into her blanket, those bright hazel eyes scanning the world, and I feel a kind of peace I never thought I'd earn. This is my family. It's not perfect. It's not traditional, but it's ours, and no one can take that from me. If this story moved you even just a little, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to defend your truth when no one else believed you? Drop a comment below. I read everyone. And if this reminded you of your own journey or gave you a new way to think about family, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps more than you know. Share it with someone who needs to hear that blood isn't the only thing that makes a family. And if you're new here or just passing through, hit the subscribe button. I've got more stories coming, real ones, raw ones, about love, identity, motherhood, healing, and all the messy, beautiful ways life surprises us.